Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Marjorie Taylor Greene just steamrolls Jasmine Crockett and lays the foundation of why we need the DOGE cuts. Let's dive in.
Trump has put a for sale sign on the lawn of the White House and has allowed wealthy donors to dictate how the government operates. That's what we should be having a hearing about, but nope. They're here attacking nonprofits that deliver food to seniors and disabled folk, provide child care and elder care for working families, job training for teens, and shelter for the unhoused. The Republicans and their witnesses have accused nonprofits of being, quote, radical and, quote, addicted to government money. And listen, I try to find agreement where I can. So I am going to say that I absolutely do agree with that statement to a certain extent, because there is a nonprofit by the name of the Heritage Foundation. And last time I checked, the Heritage Foundation, they are the authors of Project 2025. And we are living through the hell of Project 2025 right now. And something tells me that that's a bit of a partisan thing, because they said it was the conservative playbook. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't know why we would ever look at the Heritage Foundation and think that it's anything but radical and, quote, addicted to government money potentially.
As we've heard here today, the American taxpayer dollars are being laundered through the revolving door of NGOs and Democrat officials. These pay-to-play schemes are so deep-rooted in the system and are such well-oiled machines, and they must be dismantled immediately. To be clear, we support charitable NGOs that help Americans in times of need, such as during the aftermath of wildfires in California and the hurricane in western North Carolina, Georgia, and eastern Tennessee. We do not support politically connected NGOs who rake in billions of federal tax dollars to serve the Democrat Party and their friends and their priorities. We do not support Democrat officials creating slush funds, writing grants and contracts, and deciding who those funds go to, and then going to work at the same NGO that it just awarded those funds to. Yeah, that's not normal. That is the reality of what we are facing and what we faced for the past 4 years. As our witnesses stated, these corrupt NGOs do not serve the American people. They serve big government and the Democrat Party. If the American people support their climate and other woke causes, they can choose to personally donate to these entities. They can pay for it themselves. The American people are the most generous people in the entire world. In 2023 alone, Americans privately donated over $557 billion of their own money. They should be the ones who decide where their money goes. They can choose if they want to donate to a nonprofit and which nonprofit. The American people are not just generous with their money, but they're generous with their time as well. In 2023, nearly 76 million Americans, almost 30% of Americans, formally volunteered through an organization. The government didn't make them do this. They did it on their own. The government didn't hold a gun to their head and make them volunteer. The government did not hold a gun to their head and make them donate their own money. They did it on their own. However, the government is forcing them to pay for things that they don't support and they don't want happening. The United States is $36 trillion in debt. In 2024, the government spent over $1.8 trillion more than it took it in. And in 2025, the interest on our debt is expected to exceed $1 trillion. Our government is broke. Our government is going bankrupt. Our government is not a charity for the left to use to launder money through to their friends and to former government employees. Notice this. This is extremely important. There's a difference of what you heard on this committee today. Our Democrat colleagues believe taking money from the American people and forcing them to support the causes that they support is the right thing to do. They don't believe in the mission of this subcommittee, which is DOGE, which is delivering on government efficiency. And that is a mission that has been created in this administration, thankfully to President Trump, and it is a mission that we are continuing here on this subcommittee on oversight, and we're proud of it. As a matter of fact, we are delivering government efficiency. And we are proud to let everyone know that we will be voting next week for actual DOGE rescission cuts that this committee held hearings on. And that is producing results for the American people, because most of the time in Congress, all Congress does is to create more laws, create more regulations, and spend more of the American people's dollars. But right here on the DOGE subcommittee, thankfully to the hard work of its members and staff, we are actually making a difference, and we're going to be cutting government funding, government spending, government waste, fraud, and abuse.
The new crop of the GOP seems like they're not playing around anymore. They know that the die has been cast. They know what the American people are wanting to do. They know that we've got to take care of our debt problem, or else it's going to spiral way out of control. About a month ago, not even a month ago, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago, as of this recording, the bond market yield actually increased, which means in order for people to buy U.S. bonds, in order for us to actually pay our debts, and for us to actually pay for what we do with our taxpayer dollars, because it clearly isn't enough, in order for people to actually take out these bonds, the yield increased, which means that we were paying more for people to buy up portions of our debt. That's a bit of a problem now, isn't it? That's a huge issue, and it's a huge alert to the entire world and the entire financial community that things are in motion that we might not fully understand. And what that ultimately means is that we're going to have to deal with our bloated federal government. And the current crop of Democrats just want to whistle past the graveyard and say, well, we're just selling off our assets. We're doing terrible things. We need to invest more in charity. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, the American people are unusually generous. This has been true for our entire existence, oddly enough. There is a huge crop of Americans, just average people, that give a ton of their money to charity. And leftists hate. They hate charity because it means that people are doing something of their own volition, of their own will, and it's not directly controlled by them. Leftists are obsessed with power, and they are obsessed with taking power from average Joes, okay? They're obsessed with this. And so people like Jasmine Crockett are going to scream about, some people are going to be losing their care. Well, the majority of those people that are losing care, guess what? They shouldn't have been receiving it from the federal government to begin with. The American people, again, are an incredibly generous people. What happened to our charity wing? Well, as it turns out, USAID has been one of the biggest money laundering schemes that we've uncovered in American history. This rivals the Teapot Dome scandal. This rivals all the corruption under President Grant, which, by the way, decent president, but not a good administrator. Great general, and I'm saying that as a Southern boy. Boy, my opinions on that are interesting. But we've had issues with corruption only a handful of times in American history, and now we're seeing some of the worst since the 1920s under Warren G. Harding. Good grief, it's been 100 years since we've seen corruption this bad. And there's something even worse going on with our federal employees. And by the way, the slog that I had to go through to get through this article when I was researching the DOGE cuts, trust me, I'm going somewhere with this, but workers are now worried about losing jobs. Their morale is depleted. They are distracted from their work, and many top performers are being reassigned or are leaving entirely. That's according to a CNN article about the actual costs of DOGE, and unless you have an inquisitive mind, you're going to read this and think, DOGE has been terrible. No, let's go one step deeper. Let's dig a little bit into the truth here. If federal workers' morale is low, their production yields are low, and they've been spending a lot of money that they don't need to, that means that there is some sort of rot inside of this governmental system. That means that these agencies have had a lot of complacent employees that just aren't producing enough, that are wasting money, and no one really cares enough to take care of the problem. In other words, there is a culture problem in our federal government, and for the first time in decades, Someone has come along and actually said, hey, what do you actually do here? Like a scene out of Office Space. And everyone is losing their minds because, as we proved in Office Space, it's supposed to be a comedy, not a documentary. What ends up happening is that company has employed a lot of people that it didn't need to, and so they can flush out a lot of people and still be productive. And federal workers are terrified of this. Now, there is a principle involved. Because the public sector is not as lucrative as the private sector, you're going to have to up the ante a little bit to attract good workers and good employees. But the opposite of this coin is also true. Without people giving any oversight, without an actual culture change, without people that are actually caring about the bottom line, that is your taxpayer dollars are being stewarded properly, then yeah, our public sector probably needs a bit of an overhaul. So this article, again, this is CNN. You can trust CNN to be full of slop, but if you don't actually look into what they're talking about, if you don't read between the lines, you're going to get a version of the story that isn't deep enough. Because ultimately, the Democrat Party loves its bureaucracy. They love what they've created up in DC. They love having their fingers in everyone's pies. They love the fact that they are trying to push a narrative underneath our noses and think we won't notice. Marjorie Taylor Greene is right now the chairwoman of the DOGE subcommittee, and here we have Jasmine Crockett screaming about cuts, screaming about potential problems. I think she's screaming about a different issue entirely. The Democrat Party has no clue what human capital is supposed to do. And when they do understand it, they use it more often than not to benefit themselves. USAID has been a massive money laundering scheme, and it needed to be shut down. And now federal workers are now squirming in their seats, realizing that their jobs might be on the line. Good. Good. The Department of Government Efficiency is supposed to ensure that our taxpayer dollars are not being wasted and, more importantly, aren't being cut down and spent in places that they don't need to be. And when our government employees are out there wondering, well, I'm worried about my job security. Well, guess what, buddy? If you're good at your job, you're going to keep your job. So if you aren't good at your job, start squirming because you have long deserved it. You don't deserve to be wasting our money anymore. That's what the DOGE subcommittee is doing. That's what the Department of Government Efficiency was created to begin with. And that's why Marjorie Taylor Greene is so emphatic here. That's the reality of this situation. And the faster these people get with the program, the faster we can start saving Americans their hard-earned money. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.